I'll be right there, okay? I'm going to go use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Martha Skeeter. I'm not going to read too long. I'm tired. Oh, I can see my wrinkles. Ah. I'll be right back, guys, okay? And go potty really quick. Would you mind feeding her, Lex? Because I'm live right now. Hi, Fozzie, Haley, Laura, Denise. Sorry, guys, I'll be right there. Promise. Promise. I think this is going to be super short, but just felt like reading again a little bit before bed. Okay. Hi, Kevin. Get a little more water. It is so nice. Really, yeah, it is. Hi, little lady. Trying to get it where it'll just go on the page, the light. I just found one I was going to read. I don't know where it went now. The Man Who Disappeared. How about that? Can a person simply vanish right before your eyes? 1 second he's there, the next instant he's gone. That's what happened to highway traveler Benjamin Bathurst back in 1809, and they've been looking for him ever since. The story of your life. People go missing all the time. Sometimes they simply get tired of their lives and strike out to reinvent themselves. Some go off on reckless adventures without telling anyone and never make it home. Still others are victims of foul play. But then there are those who just disappear without a trace, with no possible explanation. To paranormals, this last group is the most fascinating, of course, because it suggests that the person might have somehow been able to instantly travel into another dimension or plane of existence, or that he or she had been snatched by someone in the unknown. Here are the basic facts of just such a story. Benjamin Bathurst was a young British diplomat at the beginning of the 19th century. He was envoy to the imperial court in Vienna, Austria, where he met with Emperor Francis. On November 25th, 1809, he was returning to England by coach and had stopped to eat at a tavern in Perleberg, Prussia. After dinner, he went out to inspect his horses in the company of his valet and a personal secretary. Then, according to their testimony, Bathurst walked around the horses and was never seen again. When Bathurst didn't complete the circle around the stagecoach or come back around to join them, his puzzled companions went to check on him. But Bathurst was gone. There was no sign of a struggle or violence. There had been no screams, shouts, or cries for help. No sound of a gun fired or a saber drawn. Not even hasty footsteps of an assailant or kidnapper rushing down the cobblestone street. Bathurst had somehow instantly vanished from the face of the earth. People don't just disappear, or do they? Bathurst was born in September 1784 as the third son of the Bishop of Norwich in England. He married Philidia Cal, the daughter of a titled Cornish property owner, Sir John Call. Bathurst entered the diplomatic corps at a delicate time in Europe. The Napoleonic Wars had begun, and England was eager to gain Austria as an ally and, if possible, convince the country to declare war on France. In 1809, Earl Bathurst, the Secretary of State for the Foreign Department and a distant relative of Benjamin's, sent the young envoy to the court of Emperor Francis to press England's concerns. At first, the mission seemed to have been a success. We learn a little history here, too. In April of that year, the emperor moved soldiers into Italy to counter Napoleon's forces. But Bonaparte was a superior strategist. Napoleon attacked Austria itself. After a stunning defeat at the Battle of Wagram in July, the French captured Vienna. As Austria sought to make peace with France, Bathurst was called back to London. Although his country was supposedly neutral at that point, Bathurst knew his situation was perilous. Napoleon's forces would no doubt consider him at best an intruder into their affairs, and at worst, a spy. He was, at the very least, the agent of a foreign government. Even with diplomatic immunity, he was far from safe as long as he remained on the continent. The quickest route back to England would have been south to the Adriatic. Once at sea, he probably would have encountered little opposition crossing the Mediterranean, but getting to the ship would have been extremely dangerous. So after careful consideration, Bathurst decided his best bet to get home safely would be to travel north through the German Confederation to Hamburg on the Baltic. Disguising himself, Bathurst traveled as a German merchant named Koch, and his secretary pretended to be his courier. Soon he was in Prussia, which was also still neutral in the Napoleonic conflicts. Bathurst stopped briefly in Berlin, then continued on to Perleberg, where he arrived about noon. Hi, Big Mama. Big Mama. Mama. Let's see. At that time, Perleberg on the Stepnitz River was little more than a military outpost on the border with France. Prussian soldiers were stationed there, and French militiamen were just to the south in Magdeburg. The rough-and-tumble town was filled with the sort one would expect in such a frontier settlement: army officials, camp followers, ladies of negotiable affection, traders, peddlers, and a cast of shady characters that included turncoats, secret agents, and thieves. Bathurst stopped his carriage at the post house, ordered new horses for his onward journey, and then went to dine at the White Swan, a tavern just a short distance away. He took a room at the inn where he composed some letters, destroyed other documents, then lay down for a few hours of sleep. After dinner, he decided that rather than stay a full evening at the hostel, it was best that he and his traveling companions get underway. Strangers attract too much attention if they stay very long in one place, and the dark would help cover their departure. At about 9 p.m., Bathurst, followed closely by the other men, went out the front of the inn to overlook as his trunks were being loaded in onto the coach. Then it happened. We get another sip. As recounted in an article by Sabine Baring-Gould, a 19th century English essayist and clergyman, Bathurst, quote unquote, stood outside the inn watching his portman, which had been taken within, being replaced on the carriage, stepped around to the heads of the horses, and was never seen again. Bathurst's secretary, who had been paying the landlord, looked back to the carriage. Where was his master? Herr Koch, are you there? When there was no response, the courier circled the coach. His master was gone. He waited a few minutes, bewildered. It was not like Bathurst to venture out on his own, especially when they were in such dodgy circumstances. And the horses seemed to be nervous and unsettled. What had spooked them? So the secretary shouted out again, this time more forcefully, Herr Koch, please, where are you? It was a call that would never be answered. The valet and secretary waited nearly an hour for Bathurst's return. At first, they were puzzled, but not terribly concerned. Well aware of Bathurst's mission, they assumed he had surreptitiously slipped away to make some last-minute covert preparations. But eventually, when Bathurst never showed and with no instructions or other alternative, the servants were forced to go to the mayor and reveal their situation. There's Shorty. There was an official inquiry as to Bathurst's disappearance, of course. No one else had been seen near the carriage, but it was very dark in the courtyard, the sun having set a full 4 hours earlier. If someone had been lying in wait and was skilled enough to immediately silence his victim, Bathurst might have been surprised by assailants, overtaken, and then quietly dragged away. But that's a lot of ifs. And who would have done such a thing and why? Well, there was no disagreement on that point. There were dozens of people in the town who might have wanted to do in a well-dressed traveler. And as Krauss, the valet, pointed out during the investigation, after supper, Bathurst had been standing before the kitchen fire in the midst of the postilions and ostlers, I don't know what that is, carelessly pulling out his watch and likewise his purse containing a considerable sum of money. He added that he thought it was very likely that one or two of them could have taken an opportunity of hustling him away and afterwards robbing and destroying him. European shorties. Then, too, Bathurst's clandestine travel plans might have been compromised by undercover spies anywhere on the road from Vienna. In fact, his true identity had apparently been an open secret in Berlin. Could he have been abducted by agents of the French government? For years, rumors persisted that soldiers had captured Bathurst and jailed him in the fort at Magdeburg, but any such accusations were always denied. Prior to his departure, Bathurst had considered the possibility that there might be an attempt on his life. Before working on his papers, he had visited the military commander in Perleberg, Captain Klitzing, and asked for protection. He was assigned 2 guards, but apparently to avoid suspicion, as he boarded his coach, Bathurst released the guards around 7 p.m. This led Klitzing to later suggest that Bathurst must have wanted to flee undetected on his own. Nevertheless, the captain dragged the river looking for a body. At the same time, he launched a house-to-house search. Just a few days later, Bathurst's fur coat was discovered hidden in an outhouse owned by August Schmidt, one of the staff at the White Swan. He claimed, however, that his mother had simply kept the coat after Bathurst left it behind. Then, about a month later, the diplomat's pants, just his pants, turned up in a forest about 3 miles outside of town, but still no trace of Bathurst himself was ever found. That's weird. Despite Klitzing's investigation, a prolonged personal search by Mrs. Bathurst, which included an audience with Napoleon and inquiries made by 3 private detectives, no real evidence of foul play was ever discovered. At least 3 skeletons of murder victims were uncovered in Pearlburg in the next few decades, but none of them was ever definitively identified as Bathurst. So the story remains a mystery. But why has it obtained such fame in the annals of the supernatural? In the early 20th century, noted investigator of the unusual phenomenon, Charles Fort, ran across this story, and he promoted the case as a perfect example of an unexplained disappearance. The vanish was sudden, direct, and almost elegant in its simplicity. The tale is classic Fortean because one of the possible solutions for Bathurst's disappearance, and indeed the most tantalizing to consider, that he was abducted by spectral beings or somehow spontaneously passed into another dimension, falls outside of accepted scientific principles. As a result, the story has been revisited time and time again by occultists, skeptics, and paranormal researchers. Had Bathurst been captured by secret agents or held up by a simple robber? Had he decided, for reasons of his own, to simply become a quote-unquote missing person? Or had something more miraculous taken place? Did he somehow leap, body and soul, into the next world? The debate continues. Hey, cat's got my. Yeah, aliens could have, They sure heck could have. I'm still here. I'm going to read on my phone now. We're going back to Denver, back to Colorado. Denver, spooky Colorado. Get another drink. Spooky, spooky. This one's called Roller Skating. Denver. I was bursting with excitement. The new roller skating rink was opening in town today, and I was the manager in charge of the whole kit and caboodle. It was 1884, and I'd never even heard of such a newfangled notion as a skating rink until folks proposed building one here. Of course, I'd seen people strapping roller skates to their boots and whizzing around the streets, but I never thought they'd build a place for them to roll about in. But here it was, a large pavilion devoted to roller skating. It'll never work, my wife said, as I carefully adjusted my clothes before the mirror. wanting to look my best on opening day. Not enough people like to roller skate. Oh, plenty of people will come to gawk and try it out, but you'll be closed down within 2 or 3 years maximum. Boy, she's a positive wife there, isn't she? She's so optimistic. You see, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Hey, New England thrifter. You are probably right, I said, tweaking my collar until I was sure it was straight. But the money's good, and it beats working in Uncle Alfred's dry goods store. Alicia. And where's Steph? We need our Steph. My wife nodded in sympathy. She knew Uncle Alfred and I didn't get along. We'd rented rooms right across the street from the new rink, so it was only a matter of stepping outside our front door and walking across the road to get to my new job. I arrived on the scene a few minutes before the crowd, and the rest of the day was a whirl of people renting skates, buying tickets, and buzzing around the new pavilion to the music of a small band we'd procured for the opening. The whole day was a great big blur, except for a few tidbits here and there that stuck out in my overexcited mind. There were 2 grand society ladies of uncertain age and vast dignity who had insisted that I accompany them around the pavilion at a stately trot as they adjusted themselves to the newfangled wheels on their feet. Hello, my Leslie. Freshly facialed. It's been a few days now. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, not so fresh now. 5 days today. And there was a small boy whom I evicted from the pavilion because he kept skating in circles around people, causing them to fall down. Oh, and there were Treasurer Cook's socks. Those had been a real hit. Treasurer J. Cook Jr. had very large, knobby feet, and his demure black boots did not fit into any pair of skates we had on hand. So he took off his boots, revealing a pair of shocking pink and white striped socks, which he then thrust into the roller skates. The striped socks showed clearly through the strap-on skates, and they attracted everyone's eyes. People stopped and stared, and some folks bumped into each other and crashed to the floor as they watched J. Cook Jr. skating around the pavilion. He was almost as distracting as the little boy, but I did not dare evict such an important personage, and he soon tired of the new sport and returned to work. I was bright-eyed and far too tired when I returned home from my first day on the job. The pavilion closed late, and my wife was getting ready for bed when I came into our kitchen. She kissed me, pulled a warm plate of supper out of the oven for me, and retired. I ate slowly, trying to calm myself enough to sleep, but scenes from the busy day kept running through my head. Finally, I did the dishes so my wife wouldn't complain in the morning. And I lay down beside her. It was no good. I tossed and turned so much that I woke my wife twice. Apologizing to her with a kiss, I rose, pulled on some clothes, and went outside to take a midnight stroll. Oh, that was rhyming. That rhymed. Hoping this would tire me enough to put me to sleep. This must be when the spooky stuff happens. Where's everybody at tonight or today? A little crowd. Well, that's okay. We like our little corner of YouTube world. Yes, Big Mama, they are meant to be true stories. Yes. They're legends. Myths, but they've all come from something true. It was a fine night with a full moon, and I felt myself relax as I strolled to the end of the street and back. My steps slowed as I proudly surveyed the brand new skating rink, looming tall against the night sky. I had done well my first day, I thought, and then I stopped suddenly, listening closely, for I thought I heard the sound of roller skates whizzing around inside the pavilion. My eyes narrowed. That was not good. Had some kids broken into the new rink? I pulled out my keys and unlocked the door, ready to summon a policeman if I could not evict the trespassers peacefully. A lurid greenish white light spilled over my feet as the door swung inward. I marched inside and saw that the pavilion was lit from corner to corner with no shadows anywhere. It was disconcerting. I had never before seen such a bright light inside a building, and there was music playing too. I recognized the tune at once, for our customers had been skating to it earlier this afternoon. I blinked in astonishment as I wiped tears of pain from the glaring light out of my eyes. Where was this music coming from? Had the band returned as a jest? I heard the rumble of roller skates right in front of me, but I saw no one in the pavilion. It was really bizarre. Then, as my aching eyes adjusted to the too bright light, I beheld two pairs of roller skates whizzing around and around the large pavilion. My mouth dropped open in astonishment. The skates were gliding along all by themselves. Two pairs of feet, one large, chunky pair and one small, dainty pair in kid boots, were expertly navigating their way around the rink in Plimpton roller skates. And I realized suddenly I recognized the male pair of feet. They were encased. They were encased in shocking pink and white striped socks, and the knobby toes could only belong to J. Cook Jr., the treasurer. But where was the rest of him? How could there be two pairs of feet with no bodies skating around my rink? And where was the blasted music coming from? Ooh, now that is creepy. Here's the illustration. Hi, Jackie Burns. Gumboot skates. I never heard of that. I have no idea how long I stood and stared at the whizzing, rumbling pair of skates gliding along to the phantom music. Suddenly, the skates vanished in the middle of a twirl, and the ghastly light went out, leaving me in pitch darkness. I gave a yell. Oh, that could be. Cat's got my. Let's see. I gave a yell. But it's a guy. House fell on the guy because it's a man. I gave a yell and backed out of the rink as fast as I could go, but I couldn't leave it there. Jay Cook Jr. lived over on Broadway, and I had to find out why I had seen his feet in my rink in the middle of the night. Heart thudding, I wondered suddenly if this meant he was dead. I rushed to his residence and pounded on the door until the great man himself appeared in hastily donned robe and slippers. Thank God you're all right, I exclaimed, still flushed with panic. Cook blinked at me in surprise and pulled me inside the house. I stumbled to a seat and gabbled out my story, waving my hands frantically in the air as I described the strange light and the feet whirling around the rink in pink and white socks. Cook's head jerked as I spoke, and he suddenly kicked off his slippers, revealing the pink and white socks still on his feet. I just woke from the strangest dream, he told me. I was skating around the new rink with my lovely fiance on my arm. She was wearing dainty roller skates over her kid boots, and I had on the pink and white socks she knitted. When I woke up, my feet were outside the blankets and were as cold as ice. So I sat up and put on my socks to warm my feet. A moment later, I heard you knocking on my front door. Ooh, that's creepy. I stared at the treasurer in shock. Do you mean I saw your dream? If so, then why did I only see your feet? Why not all of you? I don't know, Cook replied, shaking his head. This has never happened to me before. Well, I don't think it's ever happened to many people. You mean it has never been observed before? I said thoughtfully. Your dreams may have manifested in other places we don't know about. Cook looked gobsmacked by the idea. Really? You think this may have happened before? It's possible, I said. After all, a few years ago, who would have believed that spirits could manifest at a seance? But the Fox sisters have proved it's more than possible. That's cool, Big Mama. Cook looked thoughtful. Perhaps we should ask a spiritualist about this strange phenomenon. We probably should, I said, standing up and stretching. But for the rest of tonight, I'll thank you not to dream about my roller rink. Cook laughed and showed me to the door. I'll dream about chicken pie, he promised me as I hurried out into the night. I laughed too, and then headed home, shaking my head over the strange events. Had I really seen his dream? How else could you explain it? And why the dickens had I only seen his feet? I hoped the spiritualist could explain it when we visited her on the morrow. I sure I sure couldn't. I shivered suddenly as a shadow crossed the moon and raced toward my front door. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy, I muttered aloud, quoting Shakespeare. Maybe tomorrow would bring some answers. Maybe. That's it? We don't get to hear? That's the end of that? So I guess you're right, Big Mama. The socks are possessed. Probably. Let's see. Okay, we'll read Tom Barron's Cache. Cache. From Ouray County, Colorado. Things were pretty lively in the saloon that afternoon. Fellers were whooping it up, singing and stomping and hollering. Someone pulled out a fiddle, and a couple of blokes started step dancing out in the middle of the floor. It was fun. I swung my mug of ale in time to the beat and laughed at the antics of the dancers. After a particularly active song with a lot of stomping and high kicks, one of the dancers fell onto the bar stool next to me and grinned as the bartender dropped a whiskey in front of him. I heard you're a friend of Tom Barron, he said, downing his drink in one long gulp. I took a sip of my ale and sized up the feller. He was a blue-eyed, dark-haired Irish chap of the type ladies fawned over, but he had a lot of muscle too, which told me he was no stranger to work. Tom died a while back, I said cautiously, around the time them miners were arrested for stealing ore from the Guston and the Yankee girl. He's buried up in Champion Gulch. Yep, birds chirping. At the time, I had found it hard to condemn the miners who'd been high grading. That's what we call stealing the best ore from the mine shafts where they were working. Those men were slaving away for a measly $3 a day, just like the rest of us, while the mine owners lived like kings. It hardly seemed fair. Yeah, it's not changed much either, has it? They say Tom's buried in the gulch, the man said slyly, but that's not what I heard. I stiffened a bit and glanced at the bartender, who'd wandered over to refill the feller's glass. Don't believe you two know each other yet, the bartender said easily. Mickey, meet Martin Ryan. He nodded to the blue-eyed man. Martin just moved to Guston from the Yankee Girl mine. He refilled both our glasses and wandered away. I'd heard of Martin Ryan. He was a hard worker and a fellow Irishman. I relaxed a bit. Martin met my eyes with a twinkle and a wink as he tossed off the second whiskey. So, what did you hear? I asked, taking a long draft off my beer. I hear it ain't Tom buried up there. It's ore, said Martin. The sheriff only found $600 worth of gold and silver that those blokes stole from the mines. I heard they shifted a lot more than that before they were caught, and they cached it in Champion Gulch and raised a marker to Tom Barron to cover it. Interesting if true, I said cautiously. I considered Martin's words carefully. And see where I lost my page. Okay. A cache of ore buried somewhere in the mountains. Well, that was a treasure trove, wasn't it? Legally belonging to whatever found it. No way to prove it came from one of the local mines anyway. Martin met my eyes, and I saw the same thought had occurred to him. A few of us are going up for a look. Seeing you're a friend of the deceased, I thought you'd like to join us, he said quietly. After giving it some thought, I nodded my head. We left the saloon as soon as we finished our drinks, and we were joined on the way by a couple of miners I knew from the Guston. We nodded to one another, but didn't say much as we collected our digging equipment and headed into the late afternoon sunlight to climb up to the gulch where Tom Barron was buried. So have I, Leslie, over the years. I swear a pair of my son's socks were possessed when he was a teenager. After a sweaty training session, he'd changed socks and shoes. Anyway, he forgot to put them in the washing baskets and left. Them in sports bags. A week later, those things were running around by themselves. Ooh. Ooh. Ugh. I've got Sky, Kira, and Jasmine. Those are very cute names. Okay, I had to answer my daughter. We collected our things and headed up to the late afternoon sunlight, into the late afternoon sunlight, to climb up to the gulch where Tom Barron was buried. It was a long journey, and when we reached the gulch, none of us could really remember where Tom should be, rightly remember. So we scoured the place from end to end. It was Ryan who spotted the weatherboard that said, Tom Barron's, died 1891. He fell on the marker with a whoop of triumph, and all four of us started hurling rocks hither and thither as we dug for the cache. Suddenly, we saw a flash and heard a loud crack. Ryan went flying backward, tumbling head over heels. Then an invisible someone smacked me in the head, boxing my ears so hard I saw stars. Lord Almighty, I shouted when I regained my breath. It's old Tom's ghost. Put them rocks back, quick. The scene of an angry presence The sense of an angry presence was so clear that the air crackled around us like heat lightning. We put the rocks back onto the grave and raced away as if the devil himself were hot on our trail. The air sizzled as we ran, leaving sparks in my beard and my hair standing on end. I'd never made the trip down the mountain quite so fast. Martin and the others were right on my heels, and we all fell into the saloon when we got to town. The four of us downed drinks as fast as the bartender could pour them. After a half hour, the liquid courage fortified us enough to tell our tale to the bartender. To my indignation, he laughed at us. That wasn't no ghost. That weren't no ghost. That was lightning, he said. Storm clouds have been hovering over the mountaintop all day. You're a bunch of sissies. Sissies? Them's fightin' words. I'd have blackened his eye right then and there, but Martin pulled me out of the saloon afore I could take a swing. Maybe he's right about the lightning, Martin said to me when I'd calmed down a mite. Lightning schmightning, I shouted, enraged. I'll show him a sissy. Calm down, Mickey, Martin said soothingly. Forget about the bartender. Let's think about the gold. I suggest we return to the gulch tomorrow and try again. I'll try again right now, I roared, drunkenly, storming along the veranda. I fell headlong down the porch steps and lay with my nose in the dust of the road. What happened to the sun? I asked the boots that appeared next to my nose. It's nighttime, Mickey. We can't go back to the gulch tonight. We'd kill ourselves on the mountain. Sleep it off, and we'll go after the cash tomorrow, Martin said. Sight. Go after the cash. Not a sissy, I muttered, allowing him to haul me to my feet and drag me back to the boarding house. The next day passed quickly away. As soon as I finished my shift in the mine, I keep thinking I see weird things next to me. Sitting here in the dark, when I look up with these reading glasses on, it's all normal stuff, but it looks weird to me out of the corner of my eye. Now, this light here, the white light, just plastic thing, keeps freaking me out. As soon as I finished my shift in the mine, I went to find Martin. We collected our fellow gold hunters and made our way up into the mountains. We found our way into the gulch and up onto the shelf where Tom Barron's cache was buried. This time, Martin made me pick up the weathered headboard. He wasn't taking any chances on another stray bolt of lightning, knocking him over our heels. I grabbed the board in both hands and pulled. It wouldn't budge. I hauled again at the marker, and it buzzed in my hands. A bolt of pain sizzled through me. The lightning was back, I thought, only it wasn't lightning. My dazzled eyes slowly registered a glowing pair of miner boots, standing on top of the weathered grave marker. I looked up and saw rough miner breeches, a tattered shirt and coat, and a pair of blazing eyes. It was Tom Barron's ghost. He glared down at me from his glowing scruff of beard, and I knew he was a rat spitting mad. Tommy, lad, I gabbled, dropping the board and backing away. Good to see you. You're looking very transparent these days. You no good horn-swaggling, rat-eating blighter, Tom Barron roared. 2 large stones floated up from the top of his grave and hurled themselves at my head. I ducked behind Martin, who took one in the chest and another in the knee. Thieves, imbeciles, Tom shouted, throwing sand into our eyes and then hurling a mess of pebbles that stung our skin like flies. May the curse of the Mary Malone and her 9 blind, illegitimate children chase you so far over the hills of damnation that the Lord himself can't find you with a telescope. A second volley of rocks followed the first. Run, shouted Martin. His voice sounded choked from all the grit he had swallowed. I didn't need urging. That sparking, crackling, roaring maniac dancing in rage on his grave was too much for my nerves. Call me a sissy, but I couldn't take any more. I ran, followed by a flurry of rocks that pummeled my shoulders, back, and arms. I tripped over a tree limb, did a mid-air somersault, and kept running from the sound of pounding feet around me. I gathered my fellow treasure seekers were keeping pace with me. Here's the illustration. Hey, Tina Bean. May the 7 terriers of hell sit on the spool of your breast and bark in your soul, at your soul case, Tom roared faintly from somewhere behind me. Oh boy, was he mad. We didn't stop running until we reached town. I wanted to grab that smirking bartender and run him out of town in tar and feathers. But the other men talked me out of it. They didn't want our fellow miners laughing. They can't see. They can hear you. But the other men talked me out of it. They didn't want our fellow miners laughing at the way we'd been routed out twice by Tom Barron's ghost. I could see their point. Still, Martin said, as we nursed our drinks at a corner table, old Tom had to be riled up for a reason. He's probably got quite a cache buried under them rocks with him. You want to go back and find out? I jibed from my seat across the table. Not me. I value my neck too much, said Martin, and we all agreed. Well, I guess that man did take it with him. Lexi, turn up a light. Yeah, that's going to be it. We all got to get to bed. Or if you're up for the day, then you get to be up. And I hope it's a sunny day wherever you are. I do, Denise. I have special skills. Yes. Special skills. Can't say where I got them from. 8:40 p.m. Really? Wait. Now wait. Don't tell me where you are. 8:40 p.m. Okay. Because 5, 9, 10, 11. In England, it is like 11:30 a.m. So, and you're Boy, you are in, really, Jackie? Oh my goodness. We had a beautiful day today. It didn't rain. Tomorrow it's supposed to be warm again, like 69 or 70, and it's supposed to rain. Wait, Tina Bina, I think I was going to say Australia, but I don't think she's in Australia. I think she might be in Big Mama. I think she might be. Oh, it is. Okay, it is. I was going to say New Zealand. You're in New Zealand. Let's see who got it right. It must be Australia because she's got Sydney. Okay, Australia then. Oh, so New Zealand doesn't have a kangaroos, probably. That is cool. 8:40 p.m. Was it hot there today in Australia? In Sydney? Look, I tried to make my nails all. They're Easter colors. The purple is called Heather Heathen or something. And then they're quick dry, that Sally Hansen stuff. Quick dry. They had a nice deep purple, but it was gone. They only had like 3 colors left. I liked the yellow. They're all Easter colors. And then they had a pink. I almost got it, but I didn't. Yeah, your winters aren't very cold, are they? Katska. Oh, I know. She's got some scary stories. Definitely. Yeah, none of these have been too scary. But in the Indiana book, they had a lot of really gory ones for my state. That one had quite a few gory and creepy. There are some really creepy ones, but some aren't too creepy, like the ones tonight. Stinking hot like crazy. Yeah, that's what Deb on the Move says. She lives over there. Not Deb on the Move, Deb Van Couverden. Ah, what's that? From behind me for real. Oh, wait, that's my glasses. They're reflecting. Okay, they're reflecting on me in the chat. The chat. It freaked me out. I bet you do, Big Mama. I know I would. Jackie. Yes. Lexi and I and Dave. I know Dave's not going, but I said him one too. We all went the same time. Hi, Elizabeth T. I just scared myself though, because I don't know, it looked like some kind of monster with a huge mouth that opened like this. Like that. We're taking a little rambler trip. We're not going to say where until until it's over. But we will be going live from there and stuff, so people will get an idea where we're at, you know. You just have to be, cautious with people these days. You know how it is. Yes, Alicia, my boo. I don't know why I got so sad that night when I realized I was going to go, but yet something was holding me back. Knock on wood. Now I'm okay with it and happy about it. But my heart just really sunk that night. It was so catchy to you and everybody else. But we'll be going live. It's not going to really be any different. It'll be different scenery. Carolyn will be going live a lot. I know, Alicia. Hopefully, we can plan something again down the road. Get some money saved. You're going into the hospital now? Why, Elizabeth? Oh, that'd be wonderful, Jackie. Take your pepper spray. Oh, for work, no worries. You're going, aren't you, Elizabeth? I thought, aren't you coming? Oh, cool. Yay. I'm getting nervous because I've never driven, alone by myself that freaking far. Lexi will be with me, but she doesn't drive. Yeah, it's a good idea, Big Mama. I probably should get some. I don't have any. I'd have to get some. Dave's always the one driving on the trips. He won't even let me drive. Maybe once in a while, if he gets super tired, he'll finally lay back and I'll drive. No, don't you dare, Alicia. Don't you dare. Don't be jealous. You can be envious, but don't be jealous. Yeah. No, I'm not jealous. Okay. See you guys later. Okay. See y'all at the auction tomorrow, I bet. Right? Love y'all. Oh, yes. Lots of pictures, Big Mama. Definitely. Okay. See you later, gals. And any guys. I don't know if Kevin's still here, but I know he was laying down and listening. See you, Denise, Jackie, Elizabeth, Alicia, my boo, Big Mama. Cat's got my. Who else? Is that Elizabeth? Cat's got my. Is that Jackie, Tina Pina? And Denise. And the very first one that came in, something Bunny. She said she was just stopping in to say hi. And Leslie, you've probably left. But say goodbye to you too. Love ya. See ya. Come back and listen and replay. Anyone that would like to be nice and relaxed.